Day one of the mudroom. Now we do have a few little features in here that I have installed, but let's go ahead and walk you through it, okay? So let's pull back just a little bit here. And one thing we did is we had an old door that was sitting right where this first slider is. This is the second slider. We'll get to that another point. I made a separate video about how to install these sliders. Absolutely love it. Brings in so much more natural light and looking absolutely fantastic. So there was a door here, and let me just give you kind of an example here. We will be working our way to the kitchen, so don't worry about that, but let's give you just a little brief example. So here's the kitchen, pantry, coffee bar area here, and then a rear door. Went out to a deck. We're going to redo the deck as well. And then we have our mudroom right here. So let's go ahead and walk over here. And right here is our furnace room, as we can see right here. And then you do have a nice little kind of a niche spot right here, and then kind of a semi little wall right here by the coffee bar, and it goes all the way up right here. Now you could put some more shelving in here, cabinetry, if you want to, and it wouldn't be seen because this wall right here, but I just don't want it too cluttered in here. And obviously it looks really cluttered in here, but let me go ahead and walk back to the master bedroom, which the dogs have taken over. Let's go ahead and flip you around here. So that's the wall I'm talking about right there. Furnace room right here. We do have our breaker box right here, and up above. Now I have put this really nice light already on my mudroom ceiling. Of course, I am going to be skim coating over the popcorn ceiling. I'm going to try a different method besides scraping, and I would still have to do a skim coat. So I saw a couple other videos where contractors are going right over the popcorn. This is a 1992 house. I'm not concerned with asbestos. Even if I did scrape it, I had a big problem with my master bedroom because it was painted, and I tried warm water and vinegar and it still didn't work. So I think we're going to go with this method. Anyway, let's go ahead and show you obviously the fuse box right here. We're going to be doing a nice, different, beautiful wood slat wall. Hide that. We're going to be doing some Hampton Bay already assembled shaker cabinets I have on order from Home Depot. Those are going to be coming soon. We've already installed a tankless water heater in the utility closet, which will house the Dyson vacuum, etc. And so we're going to be putting a nice custom plywood door up right here on some hinges. And right now I'm just working out the blocking for the drywall and the trim around the master bedroom door right here. Sorry, room's a little messy. Watching my brother's pup, so we got a couple extra beds in there. Surfboard for river surfing, and then my dog. But this is kind of the look we're going to go for right here with a custom slat wall. Look on top of the plywood right here, and then that's going to open up, and then I'm going to have 60 inches across here. They call them like wall bridge cabinets, 12 inches deep, because even though this slider slides in from this direction here, and we still have a big little gap over there, because before the old door literally was right here. So you'd open up the door on the outside, it would open up from the outside, and I didn't want like the cabinets hitting you right in the face there. And I want it filling open as well, so I went with only 12-inch deep cabinets, 24 inches in height diameter. So it's gonna go like right above fuse box here, 24 inches up to the top. I'm gonna mesh it right up against the skim coat. And then we're gonna have a nice little beautiful trim, kind of like the wall out over here and the plywood right here, the plywood door, custom plywood door, I should say. And then we have shaker bottoms that I'm gonna mount up against the studs, and then probably have some feet on the bottom as well, and that's going to be for the bench, but it will have the drawers on the bottom as well. So anyway, definitely subscribe because we are going to be going full bore into it. So let me show you what I've done. First and foremost, I put a new sheet of 1/2-inch drywall over, you're not even going to believe it, but they actually do sell. This is like hair over a 1/4-inch drywall. Might be a different size, but it's super thin. As you can see right here, super thin compared to 1/2-inch drywall, which you see right here. So again, I have 1/2 inch over, I'm just going to call it 1/4 inch. So that's thickening that up really well. I've already put in a bottom outlet right here, which is going to be next to the bench of the mudroom, just in case you needed something right there, or plug in a vacuum. And we ran a separate outlet from the fuse box for the tankless water heater. And then I just jumped over to this outlet, ran some, and then can't really see it. It's in back of the insulation right here, but since this was already open, put in a outdoor outlet right here on this side with some new siding, etc. But again, those videos are already up. So coming back to the mudroom here, what we're gonna do is I have that piece right here. I'm gonna put that piece back on. I'm gonna put a fresh sheet of 1/2-inch drywall over this. I'm gonna take off this door, as in the framing and everything of that. I'm gonna open up this box, take out the 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts right here. Screws, bolts, whatever you wanna call it. We're gonna pull the cover plate out. And if you are doing this, be very careful because there is live electricity. We're gonna remove that, put the fresh sheet of 1/2-inch drywall up, and then put that back into place. If I have to, I'll get longer bolts to cover that extra 1/2-inch. I don't think it'll be an issue, but it might be, you never know. And then we'll get into how I'm gonna cover that up with the beautiful slat wall that we're gonna be doing. Okay, so we will be painting the door here and trimming that out. We'll be trimming the bathroom door out. We'll be trimming the master bedroom door out. We'll be putting trim all along the bottom, but I'm just kind of walking you, giving you a summary of what we're going to be doing. So anyway, let's start with the nitty gritty. Coming up here, I'm putting in custom blocks to fill in this gap right here. Now, the reason why we have to do it this way is because I enlarged all these doors. I enlarged this one. I'm going to enlarge every single door in this house. This is literally a full gut down to the bones of every single room. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely nice to have everything custom to specifically how you want without building a brand new home. Anywho, so right now we're going to be building blocks out 16 on center. We're going to be putting drywall up here as well. And then my custom plywood door is going to go from the bottom, and then it's going to span up to right here on this 2x4 right here. And then I've already located the trim. We're going to trim that out beautifully. I'm going to be shoving insulation up in these areas here before we do lay on the trim and the drywall, just for max soundproofing. So let's get started on that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be right back to the video, but I do want to thank today's sponsor, which is Manscaped. They have just come out with their Lawnmower 5.0, and this is the Platinum Package 5.0 Ultra. What you get is beautifulness all in one beautiful bundle right here. Let's start on this side here. They give you a body buffer right here. This is really nice. I have one in my shower right now. You put your body wash on there and you scrub away. That is included. You also get deodorant, which I also use. You get their body wash and you get their shampoo and conditioner 2-in-1 as well. Again, I use their body wash every shower. I use their deodorant. I use their body buffer. These are products that I use. Depends on when you're watching this. This is a great gift idea, and I'm actually going to be re-gifting this to someone in the friends and family circle. So, after all we just saw, of course, because this is the Platinum Package 5.0 Ultra, you get yourself, let's go ahead and start over here. You get your crop soother. You get right here your crop preserver. You get your Weed Whacker 2.0. This is an ear and nose hair trimmer. I actually just used mine today, matter of fact. They were getting a little bit long, TMI, but that's what it is used for. You got your little brochure right here. And of course, your brand spanking new Lawnmower 5.0. I have a full review video on this already on the channel. And what makes this one different is, again, this is the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra trimmer. You get your very short hair accessory for the top of your Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. We're not done quite yet, ladies and gentlemen. Underneath, you have your provided travel bag. Great for your overnight trips. You got your charger for both the Weed Whacker and the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, as well as your accessories, trimming guides in here as well. We are still not done quite yet. You also have some literature, and they also do give you a cool little like newspaper. You could put that down for your first use, trim up, and then chuck that in the trash after you're done. But they also give you a pair of their brand new Boxers 2.0, which I have many pairs of these already. Super soft, premium boxers. These are in the black color right here, and these are a size too big, or I take these out of the package and keep them and then re-gift the rest, but those are size large, and so I'll go ahead and gift these out as well. You're like, Chris, that's a pretty sweet little package deal. I totally agree with you. If you want to get 20% off and free shipping on this package or any other packages, or you can buy these things solo if you want. If you want to get 20% off and free shipping, top link in the description box below will be my direct link. Use that link. You're going to head over to their website, and the 20% off and free shipping will automatically be applied with that link. Grab your gifts, grab it for yourself. They're great products. They do a great job. You'll thoroughly enjoy them. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back to the project. All right, let's take a look at the custom door here. We're looking really, really good. We're looking at a, don't have my tape measure right in front of me, but I believe that's 5/8 inch plywood. Really nice, high quality too. That was from the previous owner, left me a bunch of wood, plywood of all different sizes, all sorts of particle board. Can't really tell, but at the time when I purchased the property, it was easily probably over $1,000 worth of wood. Anywho, was able to rip this down on the table saw right over here. Placed it right out here. We ripped that down. Old Rockwell table saw. Does a great job. You're like, Chris, what's going on with the pattern? Totally agree with you. There was only one sheet that was long enough, but not quite long enough. So I had to add this, I think it was 5.25 or so to the bottom of it, glued it in, clamped it in. And you're like, the pattern doesn't match. Well, I agree with you. But remember, we're going to have our slats over the top of it. And so that is not really going to be shown at all. So definitely not concerned about it. And to save money on a sheet of plywood like that, I'll tell you what, I'll take what I can get. So we're going to let this dry overnight. Come back, and it's a pretty heavy sheet of plywood. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use some smaller hinges than obviously a front door, but we're going to have to use multiple hinges. So I'm probably going to use about 4 hinges for this door instead of 3. I don't know if 3 can handle the weight of it. And again, I'll show you the hinges I will be using. So I don't mind using an extra hinge because, again, they're going to be smaller and they're going to do the job just nicely. You know, a couple little discrepancies there, but again, the slats are going to do it. I'm going to put some wood filler in there. We're going to sand it clean before we do all that. Might even put a zip of polyurethane, couple coats on there as well. Don't quote me on that one, but we'll go ahead and get to it when we get to it. All right, let's grab a nice hot cup of coffee, relax a little bit. We'll get into the next phase. Correction, 3/4 inch plywood. That's even more expensive than 5/8 inch because it is thicker. Not exactly sure what they go for. I have to look that up. Okay, what you're looking at right here is this is called a old work or rework box. And the reason why is because what happens on this box is these tabs right here, when you screw that screw there and the one down here, these tabs flip out and they lock into the top portion here of the drywall and the bottom portion here of the drywall. And so it's called old work. So you look in the electrical department of your big box store, Home Depot or Lowe's, and you'll see the boxes and it will say old work, and that's different than new work. New work is you have access to your stud, and I do here, and I could have, but I would have had to rip that down just to screw it in. So sometimes these old work ones are just really nice to be able to, because I'm thickening up my drywall. Again, there's the original drywall, 1/2 inch over the top. And then what this does, again, this sets in completely, and I'll show you that here in just a second. If you don't get your square perfect, which mine's not completely perfect, there's a little discrepancy right here and here. Not that big of a deal. A wall plate will literally cover that up. But what I'll do is when I go to mud it, I'll just go ahead and mud right up against that edge just in case. I don't want any critters somehow making their way through any cracks in my house. This is the country, so you never know. So again, that will sit flush with these tabs all the way against it like this, but I still need to put in my wiring coming from the top, and these tabs right here hold your wires together. This is different than new work or new construction here. They make ones with tabs that line up right against your stud. You screw it in, top and bottom. Now this costs significantly more for metal. I prefer metal. If you already have the resources for it, I'd go with metal. But then you got to get a squeeze connector for your line that's not tightened in quite yet. Squeeze connector holds this together, where the old work one, that plastic tab, holds it in there. And then you got to get a mud ring for the metal ones to go through your drywall. This is 5/8 inch. Mud ring will sit on top, and then you screw in your outlet. Some people don't care. If you're doing a whole entire house, plastic is definitely inexpensive, but these are just so much easier, in my opinion, to work with for new construction, or in my case, full gut, full remodel. But if you don't have access, like I just showed you, then you go with old work, and we'll put on our switches here. We'll put on our faceplate after we paint in mud, and it's going to look absolutely fantastic. But before we paint in mud, I want my switches working again. So let's pull this back out. I still need to screw on my 1/2 inch drywall, by the way. Cut this out just beautifully. I might, for this wall, this is really cool. So instead of quarter rounds, these are called like 1/2 inch quarter rounds, where it's just a 1/2 inch. And what that would do is that would sit like this here, protecting the 1/2 inch drywall if you really cared about that inside your box, if you don't want that, you know, flaking on you like it already is right there after my cut. So what this would do is this would nail in just like quarter rounds on your edges. You use drywall nails right here. You mud this up. You can paint that or mud that if you really want to as well. I don't want to get too crazy though, just in case I did need to remove this box for any reason. I wouldn't want a bunch of mud up against here. And do be careful, because I do have a lot of hot wires in here right now. These of course are dead. Protect yourself. Turn off the breaker before you do this. I used a manual drywall knife. The reason I used a manual drywall knife is because I don't like automatic oscillating tools that might go in too far, cut the insulation, and if I cut the insulation too far back, then I gotta run all new wires again. These are absolutely stunning. So I'm gonna show you how these were connected here. This is a little electrical work 101. Again, these wires are dead. They are not hot. I put them up in there to get them out of the way. Now let's go ahead and bring them down. So I labeled them so I know what's going on. This is the mudroom light. This was the left switch, and that will continue to be the left switch. Then all 3 of these were connected to my porch light. So this I determined is the hot wire. So how I determined that was making sure all these wires are separated, not touching each other. Turn the breaker back on. Took my non-contact voltage detector, which I'll have linked in the description box below. And this thing's pretty cool if you've never seen one of these before. You power it up, and all you do is you go up to the black hot. It will only detect voltage on black hots, not on neutrals or grounds. And then I determined that with the breaker on, with no switches on or off, this is my hot. This is what's bringing in power. And then these 2 were connected for a switch, but I believe one of these is going over to my mud light. So one of these is looped up in there going over to my mud room light, which is powering my switch. But everything needs to be connected by hot. And I'll show you how we connect this to an actual switch. So this gives you an option as well if you want to go ahead and retrofit your box as well. Again, we're going to be painting the box white so it blends in underneath, and then we'll do a nice wood accent wall trim or a very thin door with the trim on top. I'm not exactly sure quite yet. The board is lining up really well. I'll go ahead and use my drywall drill, and not my drills. I actually have a drywall screw drill, and we'll go ahead and plug away every 12 inches, every 12 inches across the top, every 12 inches down the studs. And I marked my floor so I know where my studs are. It's just easier than getting out a measuring tape. So we'll do the edges all the way up around down here. The edge is right here. And of course, we're going to mud all that. It's going to look absolutely fantastic. But let's go ahead and wire this up, get my new box in. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the box here. Now, because I have a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch, that's pretty thick, but this box was able to do it. So I put it in, and then this edge was kind of wanting to come up a little bit here. Once you turn it to the right, the flap will extend, and then you keep turning it until the screw goes in, that little flap comes towards the drywall and locks in just like a toggle bolt. And then I did the same thing to the top one as well. That is really, really nice and secure. So it actually is better condition than I thought it was. It's kind of acting like a metal box. Good news about plastic is you don't have to use a grounding screw, but we have to ground all our wires together. This is way too long, but by code, you need a 1/4 inch of white insulation poking through the tab. This is more about like a 1/2 inch or more. That's totally fine. Sometimes what happens though, it's kind of harder to bend your wires back in the box if there's too much insulation, but you need a minimum of a 1/4 inch poking through the tab. I have 2 Romex lines coming in this far one coming in this middle one, and one coming in to this far left one. There are tabs on the very bottom if you choose to go up that direction as well, but all my lines were coming in this way, and so we're looking good. I actually stripped these back outside of the box. It's just easier for me personally. You take a razor blade, lightly score it, remove it, and then go ahead and strip back your wires so we can go ahead and use some lineman's pliers and get all these together. If they're not the same size, you can trim them back a little bit or poke one in. I might have to trim this one back just to get a better rounding here. And then we'll put on a red wire cap. Let's go ahead and show you my wiring here. It's a little bit hard too because obviously everything is tied up and we're looking absolutely fantastic. Let me walk you through it here. Because of the wiring of this particular home, we had a switched loop. So we have 4 lines of Romex wiring coming in. 3 were going into a switch. 1 was going into a switch, but let me kind of explain here the best of my ability here. So we have one of those Romex cables is hot, which ties into a switch loop and then goes over to the other switch. So they don't really label them, but this one we have electrical tape on right here. That actually is a switched loop hot wire here. So as you can see, all the grounds go together in a wire nut cap here. And then we have 2 blacks going into a jumper, which goes to one switch. And then we have the hot going into this side right here. And again, this one has a switch loop. So we have this white one is acting like a black wire hot. And then our grounds are daisy chained around like this. Snip close on that right there, giving you a long jumper. Everything is lineman pliers twisted together and then electrical taped wires first. The breaker's off right now, so it's safe to touch this. Wrap your electrical tape around the wires first and then around the nut cap. The reason you do that, and if I didn't mention it, all the whites are put together except for the one that acts like a hot in the switched loop. Right here, my dad did a little diagram for me, try to explain it. A little complicated. This is a little bit more traditional, but that is how I wired up my box here with 4 sets of Romex to 2 switches. So now, after you turn the breaker back on, boom, this turns on my mud light, which it should, and this one turns on my porch light outside, which it does. Absolutely fantastic. And before you do put these back in, turn back off your breaker, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to touch anything on this side while it's hot, because that is a live wire right over there on that side and that side especially. So turn your breaker off as you're shoving everything back in. And then once you tighten everything back down, then you can flip it back on. Now, with that said, I'm able to fold everything in the box, screwing in my switches, but I won't put my faceplate on until obviously I do all my mudding on my screws and painting, etc. Then I'll put my faceplate on because I want to clean totally over the top, but I want to put a little bit of mud right up against the edge here. Very slight little expansion on this side and this side. Contractors would probably just say forget about it and put the faceplate on there. But if you're going to be mudding the screws anyway, just mud a little bit, fill in that crack for no bugs or potential draft coming through something or other. And just a heads up, it's always better to make your daisy chain copper ground longer going together, because what happens is once you shove everything back in here, if that daisy chain's too short, one of these is going to be all twanky and crooked. So you want them nice and straight, where that daisy chain back there has enough room for a half moon shape so it bends in with it. If it's too tight, once again, you're going to be fighting the straightness of putting the switches together straight back. Just like that, nice and flush and straight, and we're looking absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hopefully it has helped you determine old work, new work boxes, remodel work boxes, which is old work boxes. If you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up button on your way out, helps the channel. Also look in the description box below for some of the tools I use, not to mention electrical tape, caps, cap nuts, and all that kind of good stuff. We'll see you on the next video. Definitely subscribe for the full remodel of this house. We'll take care.